What's up guys, Alex here with another video on ChatGPT and how you can create your own ChatGPT. In this case we're going to be turning a Google spreadsheet into just a thing that will return responses from ChatGPT. So you see I have this this argument in here, write an argument for me why Batman is not a superhero. We have this button up here we've created. In these sheets, a lot of times the things I'm doing, I'm going to have options for the user to run some stuff. So these buttons are easy to create. Function here we can run, and while that's running, it takes a little bit of time sometimes, just because a lot of people are using this API. So we'll just let that run for a second, and we'll check out the output. All right, I just returned this little deal here. So it just gave us a little paragraph on Batman is not a superhero because he does not possess any superhuman abilities. Well, he does have access to technology. His skills and abilities are entirely based on human capabilities. That's about right. And now we'll show you the code, and all this code will be in the description down below. But I'll show you the functions that we have here. So in order to access this, you're going to go here to extensions, app script. It'll bring up your little app script for that spreadsheet, and then you can just drop different functions in there based on what you want to do. These are all written in like JavaScript, and there's some stuff in here, but you can ask ChatGPT, the actual ChatGPT, to write you functions that do X, Y, Z, and you can modify those functions. Kind of, play with him, and he'll help you write this. But here, just diving right into this, what this guy does is first off we create that menu at the top. So we have a couple constants here. That this one right here gets the spreadsheet that's open. This one right here creates the little this deal right here. And then we got a menu. We added an item to the menu. It's called ChatGPT Response, and it's linking to this function right here. And then we just add that menu to the user interface on open. And then we created this function here, ChatGPT. So this is the main one that runs whenever somebody clicks this button right here. All it's doing is it takes this variable input output, it reads the values. It's reading the values of the first two right here, the first two spreadsheets, but we'll get into that. So it runs this read values function, gets the input output. I describe this input as user instructions, and then I put, so this is like the prompt that's getting sent to ChatGPT. So it'll say user instructions semicolon, this little in slash puts this line underneath, and then it sends the user input to ChatGPT. I created a variable called output in order, I ping ChatGPT, that's another function down here, we'll show you what it does, but I ping him with these different variables, and these correspond to those variables inside the playground here, like temperature, max length, frequency, and presence. Yeah, so we have these different variables here. Then the last thing we do in this function is print the output of ChatGPT back to the spreadsheet, and we do that by another function. So we call this function, we send these two variables of the spreadsheet cell that we want to be printed to, and the whatever we want sent to him, which is this output, which is what is equal to whatever the ping is here. So going into the read values here, this is the function that reads the spreadsheet. So this is just a lot of jargon here. First off, this is just console log is just code that you can put in there that will, when you're running the execution log, it'll show you what is happening in these functions. So that's just debugging code. But here all we do is create this variable that gets this active spreadsheet. This right here is just a little thing I put in just in case the active spreadsheet isn't quite open yet. It just returns, and will keep returning until the active spreadsheet is actually open. You don't really need this, but this is just a like a debugging thing. And then we got a range, so we got this range where we're getting the range of these cells, A1 to B1. And then we have this array that's based on this range that we got. We put it into this array. We need to shift this array so that we get the values that we want inside the array. And then this user input value is saved to the first element of the array. The previous output is saved to the second element, and that's just showing you can create more elements here. Make sure you have these commas in between each one, and then this array will just have, you can, like, for example, if you wanted to put a whole bunch of different pings or a whole bunch of different crafting into what you're pinging him with, there might be a bunch of cells in there. So you might have a bunch of values on what you read in, a bunch of different cells, and have a bunch of values based on those read-ins. And it passes all those values here as the return, so that this function returns this interface right here. So it just tells me all these different values so we can read these in later. And so this read value function, if you remember ChatGPT, we hit right here, we read values, so the input output gets sent here. So this is like an array that has both the input and the previous output in it. So when we create this input deal here, we do user instructions, we call in the input output dot the user input, which is what we called this down here. So the user input, it's the first value in the array, which corresponds to the cell. So that's the readValues function. Next, we have the ping ChatGPT function. So this is the function that when we send from this ChatGPT function right here, we send these variables through the input, this max length, temperature is right here, and then we have the presence and frequency penalties here. So we send these variables over here. It's expecting all these variables right here, and it's running this ping. So we set up this is like a request that we're going to request the API with. This is just how you set it up. You don't really need to know, just all of these corresponds to the model you want to ping, and these all correspond to the different variables that you can ping with. Here's just some header stuff that you have to put right here. I took out my key, obviously, because when you ping this guy, you're using up a certain amount of tokens, and those tokens cost like fractions of a penny, but obviously it's my key. You got to go into the playground, the API here, and do some documentation. You'll get your own key. You throw it right in here, and then you set this up. This right here, sometimes there's a lot of people using the API, so what will happen is it'll time out and it'll just say, hey, look, we can't get a response. So I just created this loop in here. So I set this variable to attempts equals 0, and I'm going to do 4 attempts on pinging the API. It pings it, it gets a code, this response code. If it's a 200 code, it breaks. Otherwise, it catches this error, waits 10 seconds, and attempts again. That way, it just tries every 10 seconds. It could be a 40-second thing. If there's a lot of people using it, sometimes that'll help. You don't need this piece in there, but it'll help for that error handling. Right here, we have the actual response that we get. So we're going to set up this this fetch response right here to this. This is the URL that you have to ping for the OpenAI API for this particular type of request. These are the options that I set up. I set these up here, variable options, sending this little packet to him. So again, we set up a little thing where we're gonna try some responses here. Again, we're just, oh, sorry, we're down here. Yeah, so right here we got the response. So we send it off to him. We get the response back. He sends us the answer. He sends us this big long answer that has a whole bunch of different data in it, including the tokens used. You can have multiple pings if you set it up right. In this case, we only want one particular thing. We want the output that he's giving us, and this is a array right here. And you can look in the documentation here again at OpenAPI, and you can find out just like what comes back. It's going to be like right down here. So it tells you what he sends back. So what we're doing is we're getting this right here, this text thing right here. So he's pinging all this information back. We're just calling this array right here, and we're calling this element of that array. So that is right here. It's choices. It's data.choices and then 0.text. Text is that piece that we want, and 0 we want the first one in that little element. So we just set that equal to the output. We return GPT output as the return of this function. So that goes back up here. So it returns just the text to this little variable. We can print this variable out, and when we print this variable out, it goes to this print to sheet. That all it does, again, more console log stuff. So this is more just internal debugging stuff. But it prints this the active sheet. It gets the cell range. It looks at where to print it. It looks at what cell we passed it. So in this case up here, when we printed it to B1, and we printed it to the output. And right here, let's see where it says cell. It's reading the cell in, and it's reading the output. So it's just getting where we want to put it, and then clears the values in that cell and prints the stuff. So that's pretty easy. You can see how you could actually expand this, have it ping. You could run this so it pings ChatGPT several times and craft something. Like you could give it an idea. You could ping it with create an outline for this idea. It creates the outline, and immediately take that outline and say create a blog for this outline, and it will create you a blog. That way you can take an idea to a blog in one click, something like that. But you can do anything. You can again create your own sort of user interface here. You could add some other prompts in here so that when you send him a prompt, you can be like, answer as if you were XYZ. So you can be like, so you might say like variable personality. equals, and we're going to say answer questions like Batman's sidekick Robin. And then what we'll do is we'll take this personality deal, we will create a instructions variable, so variable instructions. We gotta make this lowercase. And then we're gonna do, it's gonna be personality plus, and then what we'll do is we'll do a slash in here. This moves it to the next line so that whatever comes after this is printed on the next line, plus the input. And now our ChatGPT has a personality. Let me throw my key back in here and we'll run this. All right, so now what we'll do is we're going to up the length that we want him to give. So we'll give him 1,000 tokens to play with. B1's the output. We have this deal here. We're going to go ahead and just get rid of this. And then we'll go ahead and run this from here. So the other way you can run functions is from this little option right here. This is which function you want to run. This is the main function that gets run when you click the button. So this acts like we just clicked the button. So we're going to go ahead and do that here. This is our execution log. So when we get that those console log deal, this is kind of what it's doing. So it's telling me like I have one inside GPT ping, so I know when it pings the GTP. All right, it took about 20 seconds there, but you can see it ping GTP here. It took about 30 seconds, and then it hit to print the sheet. It's going to print this data to the sheet right here to the range, and we can jump over the sheet now and see that it has printed. And it just says, Batman is not a superhero because he does not possess any superhuman abilities. He relies only on his intellect. Additionally, Batman's mission is to fight crime in Gotham City, whereas superheroes typically have much broader reach. He didn't really do it in the way that we wanted him to. I mean, you can craft this. Again, he's getting this prompt, so he's seeing this, but he didn't react. So we could say like, so we can really see an answer like a 1950s gangster. Let's run it again here. Go ahead and run. He's going to ping, and we will let him do his thing. I actually stopped this code. I realized we made a mistake in our input here, so we still have him getting the input, which is why he didn't actually see the instructions we had before. But we'll still do it like a 1950s gangster, and we'll run it again here. There we go. He's pinging now. That's why it's important to have those console logs throughout your code when you're testing. That way you can see exactly what's being sent to ChatGPT or whatnot. And when you're actually crafting these prompts, you can use the playground like we've been showing in other videos. You can use this for free. You can set all the variables you want. This acts just like ChatGPT, and we could put in our stuff here and have him output a response to see like what type of response we would get. We craft our ping. Oh, this is what we normally get. This is just that the model is overloaded with so many requests, so it just tells us to try again later. But here we'll run it again. We'll get an answer. All right, it took a couple times here, but it finally output a response when we pinged him. So we pinged him at 2:23, got a response about 10 seconds later. But here's the deal: is Batman is not a superhero because he does not possess any superpowers. He relies on his physical character. He's not convinced or can be hurt. So I still don't like it. I wouldn't consider this 1950s gangster personality. Looks like we got everything in there, but again, you just got to keep tweaking this, build your prompts. We'd have to test in the playground to see if we can get it to work better. Maybe in a future video I'll do that. But if there's anything you want to see how to build inside like a spreadsheet or inside a Google Doc or anything, like we can use other applications like Game Maker or anything like that, just let me know in the comments below. All right, like and subscribe for more videos.